So, let's set up the interaction handler script. For the isInteracting property, add the get and private set statement. For the game object property, just return the base game object. And for the collectibles collection property, also add the get and private set. Now for the default world space interaction method, we have to call the default interaction of the interactable involved. But first we need to define which will be the default one. For this example, we are going to take the first interaction defined for the interactable object. That means the index 0. Then just call the interact method with this interaction. In the interact method is where the interaction logic will be executed, but first, we use the isInteracting property to validate and prevent to interact multiple times, like this. If we're interacting, just return and do nothing. If not, set isInteracting to true, and in the end reset it to false again when the interaction is finished. Then we check the interaction type, so we make a switch clause for this. You will have every case for each interaction type. In the default case, we'll show a message saying that the interaction is not defined. It means that if some interactable has an interaction that its case isn't inside the switch clause, it will enter the default one. For now, let's just set the inspect interaction by printing a message showing the name and the description of the interactable involved in the interaction. With this basic setup, let's go back to the editor and validate the interaction trigger 2D component properties and test. You will see that if we press the interaction key, nothing is happening. That's because in the interaction trigger component we are looking for the interactable in the triggering collider, and in the case of the info sign object, the collider that is calling the interaction is in a child game object. It's the collider used for the trigger pictogram component, so we have to look for at root game object, change it and test again. Now if we press the interaction key, you will see the inspect interaction being executed, and the message being printed. Also as the trigger type if this interaction is keyboard input. If we press the default interaction key defined in the interaction trigger component, in this case is the E key, the interaction will be executed too. That's because we defined the default interaction is the first one, and in this case is the only one.